Now, what is really important with elliptical shapes, and I know I mentioned cylinders, so cylinders immediately should set alarm bells, and you'd be thinking, okay, she's talking about things that involve cylinders, involve ellipses and circles. So this little cup here, I am looking down into it. I can see quite a wide opening here with these objects, you know, which are actually inside it. Okay. Now, the first thing you need to check when you're doing anything that is cylindrical is that you make sure that your ellipse is symmetrical, and you can do that by just sort of drawing a horizontal line through the top of the shape, and indeed you can actually also draw a vertical one that dissects it, and then you can see fairly well that the four sections of that ellipse are symmetrical, equal to one another. The other thing about all these cylindrical shapes is that the ends of your ellipse must be rounded, not pointed. And there is a great tendency when people paint or draw cylindrical shapes for them to lose sight of the ends of the ellipse, and they end up looking like lemons. So just be aware of that. Having got the top part, I would then begin to consider what shape this object is. And again, the shape is symmetrical. It has sides that come in down like this, and then as it gets towards the bottom, it slightly straightens out. So, you know, obviously get both sides of it so they match each other. Then we get to the bottom of the shape, which is really critical, and I'm just going to lightly draw in the bottom of the front edge of this little cup. Now, this ellipse here has to be bigger than this ellipse at the top because it's further below my eye level. So I'm making a cross here. That is the size of the ellipse where I put those two little crosses. The one at the bottom, I'm going to actually, you know, I'm going to draw it in. And I think it is helpful, even if you can't see it, even if you can't see the back. I mean, you won't be able to see the back unless it's made of glass. And I've asked you to try and find some reflective shapes. And I hope most of you have got metal, but if you haven't been able to find metal, it's not the end of the world. So looking at this ellipse down the bottom, already you can see that it's a bigger, wider ellipse than the one at the top. And the effect of that is that this bottom curve here is more acute, it's rounder. Can you see that? I'm really hammering in the black lead. Now, the other thing about it is that as I look at my shapes on the tray, I can see that the light is not getting to the bottom of this shape. And in fact, I will end up using a darker line down here.
I'll just show people the pictures so they
yeah, there's the objects. Okay. Now, you can start off by creating a line drawing, and I would suggest that you do that. But the most essential thing at the beginning is establishing the width of your shape and relating it to the height of your shape. Okay. And I've got in front of me this little stainless steel mug. I haven't drawn its handle in, I've just drawn the body of the mug. Okay. And in order to check that I've got the width of the opening of the top accurate and the width of the bottom accurate, I can compare it with its height. And the way I do that is to hold my pencil out with my arms straight, line up the top of my pencil with the back edge of that mug, and run my thumb down until I get to the bottom edge of that mug. And then I've got to keep my thumb absolutely where it is and not move it. Turn my pencil through 90 degrees, so it's horizontal. Then I can compare that piece of my pencil to the width of my the top of my mug, and I can see that the width of this opening is about 2/3 of the height. So when I turn this round, I can check this on here on the actual drawing. I can check that's the size of it from there to there where my thumb and finger are, turn it round and then compare it with the height, and I can see I've got it 2/3, which is correct. Now it will vary according to what your shape is. I'm sure you're all going to find something slightly different. It doesn't matter as long as you use that tool to help you get the proportions correct, because often we get proportions completely wrong.
Okay, I've read. I think I'm ready.
Okay, so we've got 2 people ready.
Good. Okay. So if you've drawn one shape, indicate either the back of the table, if you can see the back of the table with a line, and where it hits your shape, like I've done here. This is the back of my table here. You can, so that's the back of my table. I'm just drawing an arrow there.
Right, I'm only using a scrap piece of paper, so
well, back of your piece of paper then. If your objects are on a tray like mine, yourself, you can even indicate a bit of that. Look at where it hits the shape. Mine goes behind, obviously behind the handle, and disappears. So this is the curved end of the bit of the tray on which the shape is sitting. There's a huge amount of reflection going on, you know, from one shape to the other. And there's parts of the shape that are being really highlighted, or edges that are being really highlighted. So for instance, the front edge of that coffee pot, a bit on the handle, the front edge of the tray, the front edge of the little cup that I was just doing in outline. There's a little sharp light on that. There's also a little sharp light on the back edge. Now, in order to create these where you've got really slim little edge, like here on the handle of the mug, you can use a double line. That's a device I would probably use, as a double line, and that indicates a sort of very thin edge there. At the back here, where there's also highlight, I probably again would use a double line. To describe the edge of that back edge, and the front edge probably a similar thing. I might just do another double line, draw in a double line to actually create a sort of slither where the highlight is getting to. And then I might start to develop the inside of this shape by using my pencil on its side. But I've got to be careful I don't go in too heavily, too quickly, because, you know, there's lots of lights and darks within even this opening here. And I want to sort of go a bit slowly. Now, the other thing I was going to say is where an edge is close to you, i.e. this edge is closer to me than the back edge, I might use a darker, richer line, or yes, a bit of dark rich underneath that highlight. So that will bring that forward when I come to draw it, I think. Down the bottom here, where the light can't get to, again, I said this earlier on, if you actually make it sort of really rich and dark down here, and not just a grey line, because if you do use your pencil too lightly, you end up with a drawing that doesn't have any contrast in it. So and I think, generally speaking, all of you need to get more contrast into the quality of the marks and the shading that you use. So when you're doing something that's dark, make it really dark. I would generally start by indicating maybe the sort of lighter greys and decide where the highlights are going to be. Don't put anything in too heavily, too quickly, because if you want to sort of take things out, rub things out, bear in mind that your pencil can sort of damage the surface of the paper if you press too hard. So I would keep the pressure of your pencil reasonably light and build the drawing up slowly and carefully. Okay, so this was just one object, and this was just a little bit about the structure and the proportion and a bit about the mark making. Remember also that these are curved shapes, so you can actually use your pencil on its side and think about creating a curve. As you know, the marks you make, they can also be curved. They don't have to be, you know, just filling in or straight. They can actually follow the curvature of the form itself, and then obviously take out the ellipses the back edge of the ellipse when you're at the point of developing the form, which is what I'm starting to do here. Okay, but I would put the back ellipses in until you are absolutely sure that your front curve and the edges of your curve are accurately drawn.